Hey, excuse me. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a tattoo video. So it's about my newest tattoo, which I got like back in August, but I know it's been a while since I got this tattoo. And me sitting down and filming this video, but the reason for that is because I wanted to wait for everything to heal, and then I went back to get a touch-up, and then I had to wait for that to heal, and now I'm here ready to share with you guys my whole experience. So it is a sugar skull tattoo, and I know this is really awkward. I'm not going to show it to you like this the whole time because it's really awkward for me. So let's take a closer look at my tattoo. So here's a little bit of an up close on the tattoo. Sorry if it looks a little bit dry. I haven't put lotion on it this morning yet, but obviously it is a sugar skull tattoo. If you don't know a lot about Mexican culture, there are other countries besides Mexico that celebrate the Day of the Dead, but the most popular one, I guess you could say, is the Mexican culture. But basically there's a time of year, usually around our American Halloween, that is known as Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead, and that is just a time for them to celebrate and remember the lives of loved ones that they have lost and have died. And a very common thing that you will see during that time of year are sugar skulls. So there are, you know, different decorations, different what am I trying to think of? Different symbols and different things, I guess, that are associated with the Day of the Dead, but probably one of the most popular ones is a sugar skull tattoo, but the sugar skull is usually decorated with things that remind them of loved ones that have passed, of things that represent that loved one. So when I was thinking about getting a new tattoo, I took a long time to think about it, and I really wanted this sugar skull tattoo. So the things that are in this tattoo are things that remind me of my family and loved ones that I have lost. So the paw prints are for my dog Lucy, who passed away. Sorry, my nails are chipping. But the paw prints are for my puppy Lucy that we lost. I also have this tattoo here that commemorates her. This is her paw print, but I knew I wanted to incorporate it in this tattoo as well. So I have these paw prints for eyes. The cross is just to represent my faith and my Christianity. These little ribbons here represent my mother. She was a breast cancer survivor, and then unfortunately she died when I was pretty young from breast cancer. So those are there for her. The rest of it is pretty much like this flower down here. The spider webs are pretty much just decorative. The heart is pretty much just decorative. But this monarch butterfly up here is to remember my grandfather, because I wanted, well, first of all, I wanted this butterfly to be cocked to the side because it kind of looks like a bow. And at first it was kind of hard to convince my tattoo artist to do it, because sugar skulls are also known to be very symmetrical. So I think the way we kind of got around it is this is not actually part of the skull. It's kind of like, you know, if a butterfly were to come and perch on the skull. So it's not actually part of the sugar skull itself, so it doesn't have to be symmetrical with the skull. So I did want it cocked to the side because it kind of looks like a bow, which even adds like an extra cuteness to the tattoo. But the purpose of the monarch butterfly is for my grandfather, because after his funeral, we were leaving the church, and the first thing I saw when we left was a monarch butterfly. So that is for him. And also I wanted this tattoo to be very colorful, because that is very... what am I trying to think of? It is like, it's like the one of the things, like one of the main things. I don't know the word I'm trying to look for, but sugar skulls are known to be very colorful. So I did want this tattoo to be very colorful. It includes everything that I wanted it to include. I think it looks super cute and super adorable. And yeah, so this is my new tattoo. So part of the reason why I wanted to get this tattoo is because I was going through this time in my life where I have what you call, I think it's thanophobia. I think thanatophobia is also synonymous, but basically it is like death anxiety. So it is something that I have dealt with pretty much since my mother died. And after my mother died, obviously is when it really kicked off, because I think at that moment I realized that death doesn't care. Death doesn't care, you know, how close these people were to you, how much they cared about you, how much you cared about them. Death is inevitable, and it can come at any time, and it can, you know, affect everyone and anyone. So when I was young, obviously I thought this is not something that is going to really affect me. Like, my grandfather died, and that was really my first big experience with like personal death, but it wasn't like super extreme, because to me it was like, you know, well, he's my grandfather, he's old, you know, old people die, like it's something that happens. And so I think that was a lot easier for me to deal with emotionally. But when my mother got very sick and got very ill, she always told me that she was going to be fine and nothing was going to happen to her. And, you know, being a kid and looking up to your mother as like this big, you know, being in the world, you know, this like superwoman basically, it was very hard for me to accept that something like that could happen to me, because I never wanted to accept that my mother, you know, who cared for me and loved me, and I loved her very much, was taken from me. And that was something that really made me realize that anyone in my life could die no matter what. You know, no matter if I prayed, no matter if I, you know, did whatever I could, no matter how much I cared about them, they could die any day. And so that is what really kind of started this whole fear of losing people close to me. And so I think it really manifests itself with Micah. Micah is probably like the number one person in my life that I fear losing. And that is probably my number one fear right now, is him dying. And like, over anything else, that is my number one fear. And I talk to him about it a lot. We have a lot of conversations about it, but he knows that it's because of my past and because of my mother passing away. And so I worry a lot about his safety, and I become very obsessive over like where he's going, how long he'll be there, you know, when he'll be back. And it's not to be like, you know, you're cheating on me kind of thing, but it's to make sure that I know what to expect, so that if it takes longer than what I expect, then I can like start to worry, you know? So like if he says that he's going to the airsoft store, I know it takes like about half an hour to get there. He usually spends about like 2 or 3 hours there, and then it takes about half an hour to come home. So I can account for about, you know, 4 or 5 hours of him being gone. And so he usually will tell me like when he's there and then when he's leaving, so that way I can expect when he'll be home. And if it takes him longer to get home than I would like, then I start to worry, because I worry that, you know, he's been in an accident, or, you know, something bad has happened. And so I think my, you know, fear definitely manifests itself the most in Micah and in my relationship, because I just worry so much about his safety. And so I was in this point of my life where it was like really bad, and I was just worried all the time, and I was just having a lot of, you know, existential crisis moments about life. And I wanted, at this point in time, I wanted a new tattoo. I hadn't had a new tattoo in a long time, and I just wanted something new. So I was trying to think about what I would get to help me with these emotions that I was feeling. So basically I started doing research about, you know, death anxiety, and that's where I learned the term thanophobia or thanatophobia. And that really kind of sparked this idea of, I want a tattoo that encompasses this idea, but something that makes death not as scary to me. So something that I can look at. So I knew I wanted it on my forearm. Obviously this forearm is kind of, you know, I have space here, but that would make this like a whole sleeve. And so I wanted it on this forearm because, you know, this majority of my arm is pretty empty in terms of space. So I knew I wanted it on my forearm because I wanted it to be somewhere where I could look down and see it and be reminded, and whenever I'm feeling like nervous or anxious or whatever, so I could look down and see it and it would make me feel better. So I, again, started doing more research, and I was trying to find something that was, you know, cute and made death lighthearted and made it something that wasn't scary. Because when I was trying to look up, you know, death and like depictions of death and like drawings of death, I wanted it to be something cute, but I was getting, you know, all these like creepy dark images, and I didn't want that. So I was still trying to think of something, and then I remembered the Day of the Dead, and I remembered the, whole, because I took Spanish for too many years and got nothing out of it besides learning about the Day of the Dead. And so I remember from my Spanish class back in like middle school that, this was something that's very positive. It's a very positive thing surrounding death. So the Mexican culture and other cultures who do the Day of the Dead and observe the Day of the Dead, they, view death as a part of life and not something that you should fear, and they teach their children, raise their children that, death is something that happens and it's not something that you should be afraid of, and it's okay to be sad and it's okay to mourn, but, it's not something that needs to be feared. And they just have this view of death that I really admire. And so I knew once I got on that track of the Day of the Dead, I instantly knew that a sugar skull was the perfect thing for me. So I started doing some research on sugar skulls, and I wanted a very colorful sugar skull because that is very typical of a sugar skull, is for it to be colorful. And I knew I wanted it to encompass things, people and loved ones in my life who have passed away. So I explained everything to you guys. I went through my whole tattoo so you know what's in my tattoo and why it means so much to me. And I should have put something in there for Micah, but I don't know, I just didn't think about it because he's still alive, so I wanted it to encompass, people who are not alive anymore. So I chose what I chose, and I sent this idea to my tattoo artist. She said, that's great, let's do it, and I got it done. So the tattoo itself took a long time, maybe 4 to 6 hours. Gosh, I can't even remember. I just remember going in the morning, and it was like a snow day, like they were calling for snow later that night. And I just remember going in there and like everything was fine. It was like light outside, and then when I left, because I didn't see the outside until after I was done, so when I left there was like 2 feet of snow on the ground and it was like dark outside, so it was crazy. But the tattoo itself hurt like a bitch, healed like a bitch. It was the most, I wouldn't say it was the most painful, but it was the most pain in the ass to heal. So the tattoo itself, for the most part, was pretty good until then we took a lunch break. And then after that, it was like pure hell for like the rest of the time, because, when you get a tattoo, it hurts when you first start, and then your adrenaline kind of kicks in and it's like pumping through your body and you kind of go numb for a little bit and you're just like taking it as it comes. And then if you take breaks, then you kind of calm down and your body calms down, and then when you go back in over the soreness that is already there and the rawness that is already there and start stabbing needles in your arm, then it starts to hurt more. So we took a lunch break that was probably like half an hour, and so when we came back from that lunch break, it was just like, it was so painful after that. I would probably say this is maybe my second most painful tattoo, to be honest. Like my rib tattoo over here, that you can't see, I'm just going to show you my breast. This one down there, that one was probably my most painful just because it's on my ribs. I do have a rib tattoo over here that was not as painful, because when it first started off it was very painful, but I was laying like this on my side and my whole side went numb because my arm was over my head, so my arm went numb and the numbness just kind of went down my body, and so then I couldn't feel anything and it was great. So that one really didn't hurt that much. And then the SpongeBob one I have on my foot was pretty painful, but it didn't last that long because it's really small. So I would say this is the second most painful, just because the pain was there for a long time, because we still had like 2 hours left after our lunch break that I had to go through this pain. So it's definitely my second most painful tattoo, but it was worth it and I really, really enjoyed it. Not the tattoo process, but I really loved the outcome. I loved the design. I think she did a fabulous job and I love her so much. She's so sweet. But the healing process was also a bitch to get through. Like I said, I had places that were peeling up and they started scabbing, and then it pulled the ink out, and so it was just like after excuse me, after everything had healed, it just like did not look that great, just because there were places that didn't have color and places that were fading already just because of the scabbing and things like that. So after I went back in for my touch-up and got that done, and the touch-up healed so much better,
they usually do anyway, but it did heal so much better, and I love the outcome. It looks great. It looks amazing. It's so awesome. I'm just so happy with it. So that is my tattoo. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Also go down below, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get notified of when I upload videos. I am doing pretty good at getting back on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule at 12 p.m. all 3 days. If you have any questions regarding any of my tattoos, this tattoo, tattoos in general, let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!